Have you ever held a walnut in your hand? Go on, imagine it. It's tough, isn't it? The shell is a fortress. Now imagine you have no hands. You only have a beak. How would you get to the delicious prize inside? You might peck at it. You might throw it. You would probably give up. But one particular crow, perched high on a telephone wire, had a different idea. He wasn't just a bird. He was a planner. He was a strategist. He held a large, stubborn nut in his beak, and he looked down at the street below. He wasn't just looking at the gray tarmac. He was looking at a tool. A very big, very heavy tool. The crow tilted its head, a glint of calculation in its dark, intelligent eye. It watched the metal boxes on wheels roaring past. One after another, they followed a predictable path. Then, the lights at the corner turned red. The metal boxes stopped. This was the moment. The crow swooped down, a silent black arrow against the sky. It landed precisely on the white line of the pedestrian crossing. It placed the nut carefully on the road, not just anywhere, but right in the path of a waiting car's tire. Then, with a flick of its wings, it flew back to its perch on the wire. It settled down. It watched. It waited. The feeling was electric. You could almost hear a tiny drum roll. This wasn't random chance. This was a deliberate, calculated act. The crow knew what was coming next. It had seen this happen before. Or perhaps, it had figured it out all by itself. All its focus was on that single small nut sitting vulnerably on the vast road. The air was thick with anticipation. The moment was coming. You just had to wait for it, and trust the bird knew what it was doing. Then, the light turned green. The cars began to move. The first car in the line rolled forward. Its heavy rubber tire went directly over the nut. Crunch. The sound was small, lost in the noise of the city, but the effect was perfect. The tough shell shattered, revealing the rich, oily kernel within. The cars drove on. The crow, however, did not move. Not yet. It waited for the traffic to pass. It waited for the little walking green man to flash, signaling safety. Only then, when the coast was clear, did it glide down to claim its perfectly cracked, perfectly served meal. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated genius. Beat. This act of using a car as a nutcracker is just one window into the crow's mind. They are, in fact, nature's tiny engineers. Their ability to use tools is not just a fluke, it is one of the most astonishing behaviors in the animal kingdom. Take the New Caledonian crow, a true master of the craft. I once watched one of these remarkable birds face a challenge. A tasty grub was wriggling deep inside a narrow crevice in a log. It was completely out of reach. Another animal might have given up. But this crow had an idea. It flew to a nearby bush and carefully selected a twig. The twig wasn't quite right. It was too leafy. So the crow held the twig down with its foot and began to modify it. With its beak, it stripped off the side branches. It trimmed the leaves. It shaped the twig into a long, thin, perfect probe. This wasn't just using an object. This was manufacturing a tool for a specific purpose. It held the finished instrument in its beak, flew back to the log, and inserted it deep into the crevice. With delicate precision, it wiggled the stick around, irritating the grub. The grub latched onto the stick, and the crow pulled it out, a wriggling, protein-rich prize. But their ingenuity doesn't stop with sticks. In laboratory settings, these birds have shown a level of problem-solving that rivals that of a great ape. One crow was presented with a piece of food inside a small basket at the bottom of a clear tube. The basket had a handle. The only thing available was a straight piece of wire. The crow tried to fish out the basket, but the straight wire was useless. It couldn't get a grip. The crow paused. It looked at the wire. It looked at the basket. Then, it did something that sent shivers down my spine. It took the straight piece of wire, wedged one end into a crack, and used its beak to bend the other end into a perfect hook. It created a tool from scratch. It had visualized the solution in its mind. It needed a hook, and then it figured out how to make one. With its newly fashioned grappling hook, it snagged the handle and pulled up its reward. This is not simple instinct. This is a chain of logical thought. It's the ability to see not just what an object is, but what it could be. The city is a challenging place. It's a jungle of concrete, glass, fast-moving metal. For many animals, it's a dangerous and confusing world. But for the crow, it's a landscape of opportunity. The crow that used a car to crack a nut is the perfect example of an urban strategist. These birds have learned to read our world. They understand our patterns. They have turned our infrastructure to their advantage. They don't just see a traffic light as a colorful lamp. They see it as a switch that controls the flow of their nut-cracking machines. It's an incredible feat of observation and learning. Scientists in Japan studied this behavior closely. They found that the crows were incredibly discerning. They didn't just drop nuts randomly. They chose intersections with pedestrian crossings. They learned that when the little green man lights up, the cars stop, and they have a safe window to retrieve their cracked nuts. They are not just using the cars, they are using the entire traffic control system. They have integrated our rules into their own survival strategy. It's a bit like learning a new language, but instead of words, the language is made of red lights, yellow lights, green lights. This city smarts extends beyond traffic. Crows memorize rubbish routes, know collection days, and have learned to open complex bin lids, sometimes working in teams, with one crow holding the lid open while the other forages inside. They even follow people with paper bags, knowing a crust might be coming. Crows also use the urban environment for play and for safety. They build high, away from cats or raptors. The city is their playground, their pantry, and their fortress. They have truly conquered the concrete jungle. If you have ever felt like you were being watched by a crow, you probably were. And what's more, that crow will remember you. Their memory, especially for human faces, is astounding. It is a skill crucial for survival in a human-dominated world. They quickly learn to distinguish a person who offers them a crust of bread and a person who throws a stone. This memory isn't fleeting. It can last years. It's a powerful survival tool proven by experiments. Researchers at the University of Washington ran one such study. They wore a specific, unique mask, the dangerous face, while capturing and banding several crows. Mildly stressful, but harmless. Afterwards, the researchers walked the campus wearing the mask. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. The captured crows scolded and dive-bombed the masked person, making harsh, angry calls, alerting other crows. Different mask or no mask? The crows ignored them. It was the face they remembered. Even crows not captured and not even born at the time also learned to scold the dangerous face from parents and peers. The warning spread through the community like a wanted poster. This reveals a complex social network. Crows don't just learn from their own experience, they learn from others. Food and threat information spreads fast. This social intelligence is a huge advantage. The flock becomes smarter, safer, and more successful than any individual. So, if you're kind to a crow, it will remember. And it might tell its friends about you too. To truly understand the depth of a crow's intellect, we must bring them into the lab. Here, away from city distractions, we can present problems they've never seen before and test their limits. Time and time again, they leave us utterly astonished. Scientists have designed elaborate puzzle boxes, multi-step challenges that would stump many animals. For a crow, it's often just a matter of time, patience, a flash of brilliant insight. They seem to enjoy the challenge, especially when a tasty peanut is the reward. One classic experiment involves a sequence of tools. A crow is shown food locked inside a box. To get it, it needs a long stick. But the long stick is itself inside a cage, retrievable only with a shorter stick. Without hesitation, it picks up the short stick, uses it to pull the long stick within reach, discards the short, takes the long, and finally gets the food. Not a simple one-step action, but a sequence of 3 distinct steps, planned in order. The crow understands the end goal and works backwards to figure out the steps required. This is called sequential tool use, a hallmark of high intelligence. It demonstrates planning and an understanding of cause and effect. In other tests, crows must pull strings in a specific sequence to release a treat. Pull the wrong one, and the food is lost. They quickly learn the correct pattern and remember it for days, even weeks. They seem to grasp the physics. A specific action yields a predictable outcome. Not random guessing, analysis, hypothesis, testing. Tiny, feathered scientists in their own right. And yet, an ancient story predicted their brilliance. A revelation in a water glass awaits. For all we've seen, tool making, traffic light timing, facial recognition, one story captures the essence of the crow's mind. The fable tells of a thirsty crow raising water with pebbles to drink. We thought it was just a charming story until scientists tested it. A waxworm floated on water too low to reach. Next to the tube, a pile of stones. It looked, it tried, still out of reach. It looked at the stones. What happened next became scientific legend. The crow picked up a stone in its beak, plink. The water level rose a tiny bit. The crow paused, observing. Stone after stone, methodically and with purpose. The principle of water displacement. The worm floated closer with each stone, offered hollow floaters and heavy stones. It ignored the floaters and chose the sinking stones, understanding its tools. The water rose high enough. It leaned in and plucked the prize. The ancient fable was true. The crow turned a story into a living demonstration of logical thought. The next time you see a crow, just watch. And, wait for it. You never know what marvel you are about to witness.